can participate in, and diaries about what's going on. So long. Thanks for being here.
Now, live CBS3 Eyewitness News at 6.
I'm Larry Menti, live in Narberth, Montgomery County. Take a look. We're covering major storm damage all throughout the area. Just as we get finished cleaning up from Isabel, a new storm that some call worse than a hurricane hits the Tuesday morning commute. And Alicia, tonight there is damage all over South Jersey and Pennsylvania.
All right, we can see that. And from Pennsylvania to hard-hit regions of New Jersey, you'll hear from the people who worked inside this building as they describe a black funnel bearing down on them. Also, a CBS3 exclusive report on the experts who go out and determine if a twister has in fact hit. And with trees and power lines down again, it could be days before crews can get power back on. We have reporters hard at work throughout the Delaware Valley. Right now, let's start our Team 3 coverage off in Narberth with Larry. Larry?
All right, Alicia, we want to talk about a lot right now. First of all, 2 tornadoes confirmed. One was in Ewing, Mercer County, the other in Flemington, Hunterdon County, both in New Jersey. Was this, come on down here, was this a tornado that hit in Narberth? Some people here think it is. Doesn't really matter at this point because it caused a lot of damage. They're trying to get power back up on Wynwood Avenue here at the end of Windsor. They are crews that came in from Illinois to help out with Hurricane Isabel. They're staying here to help here. Take a look at this house. A tree fell right in the front, causing damage. The people couldn't get out of their front door. As a matter, Johanna, come on over here for a second. This is Johanna Hertz, who lives in this house. What did you hear this morning?
Well, I heard a loud groaning sound a couple times and the lights flickered, and then I went upstairs and I heard what I assumed was a tree falling down.
And you said you heard, what was that?
It was like a loud groan. You know, people always describe it as a train, hearing a loud train, and it certainly sounds similar to that.
We should point out that that's a brand new car over here that the tree fell on. Thank you, Johanna. And Johanna can't get out of her front porch. Real quickly, I want to call Jeffrey, come on over here for a second. Jeffrey Raymond was living in this house over here when a tree fell in to hit. And Jeffrey, you're pretty convinced this was a tornado. Tell him why.
Because I saw the white stuff.
What white stuff?
Like the stuff that goes around.
You were looking out your window when it came through?
Yeah.
About what time was that?
About 9:30.
Okay, at about 9:30. Well, the hurricane people have been out here. The National Weather Service have been out here. They're checking it out. We should get word at any minute. Hopefully, Kathy Orr will have word as to whether this was actually a tornado that hit Narberth. We do know it was a tornado that hit Ewing, Mercer County. Take a look at some of the pictures from Ewing, Mercer County. It was a confirmed tornado at 8:30 that sent utility poles and power lines to the ground. High winds tore up roofs and shattered windows. Also, a hurricane in Flemington, Hunterdon County. I'm moving over just a little bit because we have another view to show you of Narberth where a potential tornado hit. This is the view from the ground of a lot of the work being done. Now let's go up to Chopper 3 where Tom Negevin is standing by to give us a bird's eye view of the entire area. Tom.
And Larry, a bird's eye view is exactly what we have live from Chopper 3. Look at our satellite truck, look at your location, and Paul Liano down there on the ground. What a location you have selected, Larry Menti, for taking the show on the road tonight, because you're in the center of it, and I can tell you that definitively from here, high above it all in the air. We're seeing below us trees down, lines down, damage to cars, damage to homes, and utility crews out in force again tonight. Just what they needed so soon after being hit so hard by Hurricane Isabel. A live look down below us at Narberth again shows those crews hard at work, shows those homes hit by debris and falling trees. Some of those trees down, some of those lines still down, and those folks all around you still at work. The people we've heard from, the homeowners, still reeling from the effects of this storm. We've been crossing the Delaware Valley to see it. We've been finding it everywhere across our region virtually as people struggle to deal with Mother Nature. Can't argue with her, just have to deal with her, as we're finding out today. We are live tonight aboard Chopper 3. Tom Negevin, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, Tom, good job. Now move on. The people out here have to get out of their houses. They can't hear themselves think. Robin McIntosh continues our coverage in Narberth. He's right down the street. We are going to check in with reporters all throughout the area. First, let's stay here in Narberth because they were hard hit by a potential tornado. Robin, what'd you find out?
Well, I can tell you, Larry, that's the word out here in the street. Everyone does think it was a tornado. Of course, no official word. Take a look right here across from the Narberth playground. This street is full of crews, many of them coming from as far away as Chicago, in, as you said, to take care of Isabella, and now this. Lots of people still without power here as these crews are working feverishly to clear this area. And as bad as this looks now, earlier today it was much, much worse.
I've been waiting for this to happen, and it happened. So what can I say?
Peg Scott's worst nightmare came true around 7 o'clock this morning when high winds toppled the tree in front of her house right onto her front porch.
One of our crew people, his brother had seen on his way down here a funnel coming this way. So I've seen a lot of big winds hit Narberth, no damage like this.
Word spread quickly that all this damage may have been caused by a tornado. But one thing was for sure, dozens of trees here were down, power lines were cut, and a large portion of Narberth was badly damaged.
We've been fortunate. My understanding is there had been no injuries, which is the most important aspect.
Hardest hit, historic Narbrook Park, that dates back to the turn of the century. Homes plunged into darkness, lots of damage, but homeowners just grateful they escaped with their lives.
Very grateful to God. God's been with me today.
An awful lot of prayers were answered here in Narberth. No deaths, no serious injuries as the work continues here. Still lots of people without power, and no one knows when it will come back as Narberth struggles to recover from the storm. Live in Narberth, I'm Robin McIntosh, CBS 3 Eyewitness News, and Larry, we'll go back to you.
All right, Robin, that was a great point, by the way. Nobody seriously injured, and when you do look at the damage up and down this street in particular, as we get out of the way, sorry about that, as we look up and down the street in particular, there was so much damage into homes and cars. It's amazing that no one was more seriously hurt. Let's stay in Montgomery County right now. Walt Hunter is over in Lower Merion. Walt, what's the situation there?
Well, Larry, power is literally on the way to the people here on Argyle Road. Take a look. A generator, even as we speak, being hoisted into place on this pole. This is Argyle Road. This turned into basically a war zone this morning. We now have 15 PECO crews with 40 workers here trying to replace the poles, trying to replace the damaged wires that came crashing down when the tree limbs came to the street. You take a look at those crews working, you look at the damage here, and you think at 7:30 this morning with rush hour traffic and kids going to school, it's amazing. Nobody was seriously hurt here. Looking at what had been the family's swing set, now crushed beneath a huge pine, Deborah Zwiebin and her daughter remembered the storm's sudden fury.
The trees were they just cracked in half. The tree, you could see the trees just cracked in half.
In an instant, trees, poles, and live wires toppled onto busy streets. This SEPTA bus bogged down in the mud, trying to get out of the damage area.
For the first time in 32 years, I saw my maple tree actually stand on end, which was incredible to watch.
The storm lacked a hurricane's name and size, but those who lived through it say it was quite comparable in its awesome power.
This was a hurricane. What we saw the other day didn't seem like much compared to what I saw this morning.
And right now there's no estimate from PECO on exactly when the power will be restored to the folks here in Wynwood. This was an incredible storm, but also a very local storm. 3 blocks from here, there's absolutely no evidence of any damage whatsoever. We did talk to some of the PECO workers here, Larry, and by the way, we asked them about Isabel and how tired they were. They said, yeah, they were planning to go home today, but we guess Mother Nature had other plans. Indeed. That's it live from Wynwood. Walt Hunter, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Back to you, Larry.
I'll tell you what, Walt, when the PECO crews get to go home, they go raking around to help get the power back out in Narberth. Very nice job, guys. Alicia, I know this is only one area hit, but similar situations all over the place.
Larry, thank you. That's certainly the case. Holding down the fort out there. Now, it was a far from normal day on the job for workers at a Mercer County car dealership. They watched a black funnel cloud pick up a roof and send pieces flying through the air. Valerie LeVake is live in Ewing Township with more on the damage in Mercer County. Valerie.
Alicia, it's been about 6 hours since the tornado hit Ewing Township. In fact, you can still see power lines down here behind me. There were live wires this morning on top of a school bus with children inside. Luckily, emergency crews were able to save those children. No serious injuries to tell you about here in New Jersey, but the governor says this could have been a whole lot worse.
We're 24/7 until we get...
Governor Jim McGreevey toured Ewing Township, hardest hit in Mercer County by the tornado. The storm created a web of power lines. Poles snapped in half by high winds.
We're working hard on the restoration of power. In certain areas, in certain counties, it's more difficult because we're dealing with more remote homes.
The storm took the roof off this car dealership. The owner says he will rebuild.
Stuff like this happens, and thank God no one got hurt. It's a miracle that no one got hurt. The rest will get fixed.
Not only were businesses damaged, but residential properties were as well. This tree was uprooted and crashed close to some homes.
The middle tree, thank God, the largest part fell between both houses, but this branch here sheared off and caught the corner of my house right there.
And trees also fell on cars.
It was in perfect condition, a 77 Monte Carlo Classic. It was in all the car shows, award winner, and it's gone.
I'll tell you what else is gone tonight, power. That's why crews are putting out these portable lights. There are 26,000 people statewide in New Jersey without power tonight. This area has been declared a local state of emergency. Live tonight in Mercer County, I'm Valerie LeVake, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, Valerie, and the high winds and heavy rain made a big mess in South Jersey. Right now, neighborhoods like this one in Burlington County are littered with tree limbs and debris. New Jersey reporter Sydney Long is live in Riverton, where people are cleaning up the mess the storm
just gobbled up in seconds. Fortunately, the owner of this car didn't have any errands to run. Residents here dodged toppled trees and warned to steer clear of tipsy utility poles like this one.
And it went through so fast. You didn't know, what to do.
And for students, Alicia, who don't know what to do with their time off tomorrow, look around. There is plenty of yard work. Obviously, some of it a little too heavy to handle. A parade of PSE&G trucks, tree service, and Verizon literally have their work cut out for them tonight. But fortunately, no one here was hurt. We're live in Edgewater Park. Sydney Long, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, Sydney, and not only has a lot of debris been caused because of the windstorms, also power is out right now. PECO says 5,200 customers are without power, mostly in Delaware and Montgomery counties. PSE&G says 7,000 are in the dark in South Jersey, and in Newcastle County, Delaware, Connective says 1,500 customers are without power. Larry, back out to you.
All right, Alicia, back in Little Narberth, Montgomery County. A lot of damage, however. Take a look at where that tree just split in half, fell on the clubhouse in historic Narberth Park. Here's the other clubhouse over here. There is the roof of that clubhouse that just blew off. So lots of problems here. Also, drivers were wading through water earlier today. This was the exit ramp at routes 422 and 29. After the Pokemon Creek overcrowded, people were rescued from their cars there. The flood caused a 20-mile backup. So this is the aftermath of that storm that spawned tornadoes, a potential one here. Kathy Orr has another look at this system as it came through on Mega Doppler 3. Kathy, must have been something.
Larry, it was incredible. We're going to take you back in time to about 8 o'clock this morning when we saw the line of severe weather moving through the Trenton area where we saw the tornado being spawned. And you can see a little bit of a bend in the resolution here, in the echo you can see of the actual radar. And when we see this bending, we call it a hook echo. And what that means is rotation in the thunderstorm and a possibility of a tornado forming. Now, the exact setup of this event is a little bit uncertain at this point, but this is what we think happened as far as why we saw the severe weather. Let's take you to the weather maps. We had warm tropical air, very moist air over the Delaware Valley, an approaching cold front that added lift in the atmosphere, strong southerly winds at the surface, some strong westerly winds just several hundred feet above the surface. The converging of the winds, the lift from the cold front helped to create the severe weather. Also, see where these fronts meet? We call this the triple point. That also creates instability in the atmosphere and rotation. And if that triple point moved across the Trenton area, that could definitely help create the rotation in the atmosphere and the spawning of the tornadoes. So what is the difference between wind damage and tornado damage? We'll answer those questions coming up. Larry, right now, no confirmation of a tornado in Narberth, but of course we'll be the first to let you know. We know the National Weather Service is in the area right now surveying the damage where you are.
Yeah, they are still waiting to hear out here, but people in Narberth convinced that it was a tornado that came through. How do they tell? Well, some meteorologists from the National Weather Center go out. They flew in Chopper 3. Our Paul Diano was with him. He'll have an exclusive report coming up.
Under attack. You're watching CBS 3 Eyewitness News at 6.
We are following a developing story from Philadelphia, a triple murder, 2 adults and a teenager found shot execution style. It happened in the 5400 block of Bingham Street in the Olney section of the city. A rear door was found open. The victims are a mother, daughter, and the mother's live-in boyfriend. So far, no suspects and no motive. Now, returning back to our tornado coverage, we're going to go back out to the field where Larry Menti is in Narberth, Montgomery County, where they say a tornado has not necessarily been confirmed that it's touched down. But Larry, you tell us the damage there. Residents are pretty convinced that that's exactly what hit.
Well, Alicia, just take a look at this. Think of the power of the winds that can snap a tree in half just like that, sending the top half of the tree down to where I'm standing right now and causing all this damage to a house. Was it a tornado? Was it straight line winds? It doesn't matter. It caused a whole lot of damage. But there are people that make that determination, and meteorologist Paul Diano was out with them today in Chopper 3. Paul.
Tell you what, Larry, you can see a tremendous amount of damage from the ground, like this tree just laying on the street right here. But imagine how much more you could see from 500 feet in the air. That's why CBS 3 and the National Weather Service teamed up to take a trip airborne over South Jersey earlier today.
I think this is one of the more significant severe weather events that we've seen.
A severe weather outbreak throughout the Delaware Valley. Severe enough that National Weather Service meteorologist Gary Zetkowski hopped aboard Chopper 3 for a bird's eye view of the damage.
This looks like straight line winds.
The goal is to find the source of the damage, straight line wind gusts or tornadoes.
Tornadoes are relatively rare events. Right now, a lot of the damage looks like it's going from west to east, which is more straight line wind. Nothing to suggest otherwise from this angle.
As Chopper 3 flew over Burlington and Gloucester counties in New Jersey, the verdict here is no tornado, but that certainly doesn't mean no damage.
Over 95% of all the wind damage we get around here in the Delaware Valley is from straight line winds, and a lot of times that's with winds of 70 or 80 miles an hour, which is comparable to an F1 tornado.
And just to show you some of the damage out here, take a look at this tree, just split in half. Pieces that big are just wedged right inside here. The winds from today's storm, 20 miles an hour faster than the winds from Hurricane Isabel just last week. Reporting live in Narberth, Paul Diano, CBS 3 Eyewitness News. Alicia?
All right, Paul. Well, those tornadoes have certainly wreaked havoc in many areas, but how has it affected traffic? We're going to toss things over to Bob Kelly in the CBS 3 Eyewitness News Traffic Center for more on that. Bob.
Alicia, it's certainly going to be a long ride home for a lot of folks. Some closures still out there. Let's roll the maps in motion for you. A couple of the spots, Montgomery Avenue at Wynwood. You're going to find delays 926 and Route 100. That's in the area of the Brandywine Creek from flooding, and also a power outage causing delays.
Your extended forecast.
You're watching the Weather Channel. Live by it.
Strong storms hit some of you today, and in some areas that had already been hit hard by Hurricane Isabel. Is drier weather on the way? We'll have some answers coming up.
Spray-painted messages tell the story along the North Carolina coast. Residents are asking for help as they continue the long recovery from Hurricane Isabel. Some still have no power or safe drinking water almost a week after Isabel hit. Hi, and welcome to Weather Center. I'm Christina Abernathy.
And I'm Carl Parker. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Weather Center. And boy, you don't realize how much you need something like power until you lose it for a week. That's awful.
That's an awfully long time to be without power, and a pretty bad situation there. Luckily, not much else is going on in the tropics at the moment, so we can kind of breathe a sigh of relief in that aspect. But it's going to be a while before those folks get their lives back to normal.
Yeah, it's a real tragedy. But it is fairly quiet, as you say, and you'll be talking more about that in the Tropical Update coming up at 50 minutes after the hour. Let's take a look at what happened this morning in Richmond, Virginia. And believe it or not, we had a tornado at 6:15 in the morning. And boy, there's never a good time for a tornado, but boy, is it strange when it happens in the morning. You're just not ready for something like that in most cases. A lot of folks probably weren't even up when this thing hit. Homes were damaged, trees were uprooted. It was an F1 tornado on a scale of 1 to 5, so not the worst of tornadoes, but certainly a very scary time, no doubt. And there was a fair amount of rain in many areas too. 3.5 inches of rain in Reading, over 3 inches in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, and Richmond picking up 2.5 as of 8 a.m. this morning. Got a big front here that tilted into the negative here earlier today. So there was a lot of lift in the atmosphere, and that's why we saw the strong storms with the tornado. Notice the big feed of moisture coming right up the east coast. We are still now getting rain in parts of the northeast, most notably in Maine and also in Massachusetts. There is some heavier rain and some thunder right along the coast in Massachusetts and down into parts of Maine here a little farther southward. And notice as we look at Boston that most of the worst of it is now moving offshore. There might be a few lingering showers moving in later tonight, but that is going to be about it for Boston and also for Hartford. A lot of wind today, winds gusting to 30, 40 miles an hour in Boston and still gusting to well over 20 miles an hour in many areas of the lake and interior northeast. Tomorrow the winds will calm down. High pressure settles on in, a big bubble of high pressure. Should be a beautiful day tomorrow, but notice that we have another front here off to the west.
On Thursday, we'll see a chance of rain. Look for fair skies on Friday. And on Saturday, expect a chance of rain.
It is now 10 minutes before the top of the hour and time for the Tropical Update. I'm Carl Parker. We want to check in with our hurricane expert, Dr. Steve Lyons. And Dr. Lyons, now that we look back at Hurricane Isabel, we're able to see some pretty amazing effects from that storm.
That's right, Carl. The NOAA P3 aircraft typically fly over for a damage survey when storms and hurricanes make landfall. Let's jump on board that P3 aircraft and have a look at what they saw on the Outer Banks of North Carolina. Let me get our bearings here first. We're going to be heading due north. This is a compass, and this is the barrier island here, and that road was Highway 12. You can see this cut in the barrier island, rather dramatic. Now here we go on the flight. We're zooming in, and here's Highway 12, what was left of it. There's the beachfront right there, and here we go toward the north, and you can see Highway 12 completely disappears under the water with a series of breaks. Major breaks in the island that's completely gone. They're going to have to completely rebuild that barrier island before anybody can drive south to Cape Hatteras from the north. You can see that basically the road is completely gone. Well, let's see what's going on out there in the Atlantic. After all, we still have a third of the hurricane season left on average this time of year. Tonight we're monitoring this east-west line of thunder showers. It's tied basically to this frontal boundary that's hanging off this low pressure system farther to the north. By the way, this low pressure system is kicking up some pretty high surf here for Africa. It's going that way. That surf will be about 10 to 15 feet. Some good surf spots in Morocco, by the way, if you're world touring on your surfing trip there. But the area of most concern is on the far western edge of this, a little weak trough over here. Not really a well-defined low-pressure center yet, but we're monitoring it carefully. The upper-level environment not all that favorable. Now, in the tropical Atlantic, where we would still expect something to develop, we have a wave that's come off Africa, but this big dry slot here is associated with sinking air from high levels in the atmosphere and not very favorable for development. So we expect this cloud cluster to dissipate over the next 24 to 36 hours as it moves to the west. Let's go into the Gulf of Mexico and the Caribbean. All this cloud and shower action is associated with an upper-level trough. That's rather harmless and not favorable for tropical development. And we have a frontal boundary out into the Gulf of Mexico. Over here, this is just basically where northeasterly winds merge with southeasterly winds and produce showers. In here, we still have a trough of low pressure we'll be monitoring, but the upper-level winds right now are very fast out of the northwest, unfavorable for development at this time. Let's head out into the eastern Pacific, where we had Hurricane Marty, Tropical Storm Marty, and now Tropical Depression Marty. All tropical storm watches and warnings are discontinued. The vortex is basically here in the northern Gulf of California spinning around, and really the only threat left is a possibility for some localized flooding over Baja and the Mexican coastline here. The Mexican province of Sonora got upwards of 7 inches of rain from it earlier in the week over the last 2 to 3 days. We could still see some rain coming up into southern Arizona over the next day or two, even into California and New Mexico, the very southern portions, maybe upwards of 2 to 3 inches. Watch out for local flash flood. Carl?
Dr. Steve Lyons, thank you so much, and let's go ahead and talk about what's happening right now across the country. And we are watching a front that is moving along towards the east in the northeast, and along that boundary we have wet weather now in New England, most notably into Maine and down into parts of Massachusetts. A few lingering showers behind that. Also a few showers now in Florida along the southern end of that boundary. All of that will be gone by tomorrow, although we could still see a few showers in South Florida. Should be a great day along the East Coast, and we'll turn our attention to this next front here. That will come down through the middle of the country with that showers and storms in the Midwest, and we could see some of the action in Chicago tomorrow, as well as Detroit, and then a shot of cooler air will dive down through the middle of the country.
Well, there's much more to come on the second hour of Weather Center.
And we'll be back after your local on the 8s.
What are you making? Condensed soup? The kids are gone. We're moving on. Now we can eat a better tasting soup for grown-ups.
Progresso chicken noodle?
All white meat chicken, adult-sized veggies. See the difference?
This tastes way better.
Discover the better taste of Progresso.
There's something great going around. Something so delicious, people can't get enough of it. It's these new reclosable bottles of Ensure.
Oh, that's a lick.